My name is Daniel Ioannissan. I'm Programs Director at Union of Informed Citizens. I would like to welcome you all. And today's discussion that we have organized is about war crimes of authoritarian regimes. You know, the investigation of war crimes by journalists have been significantly changed within the last half century or 16 years, basically after Vietnam War. Because now mainly the war crimes are committed by regimes that are too authoritarian to allow investigative journalists to investigative journalists in their countries to investigate those crimes. But at the same time, open source intelligence tools are available, and many journalists are doing a great job by investigating war crimes without being actually on the spot, without being on a place where the war crime has been committed. And that's at the same time harder because it is because you haven't been there, but at the same time it's maybe a little bit easier thanks to those let's say 21st century tools. And we have speakers from Ukraine, from Belarus, and from Armenia, who would be talking about their experience on investigating war crimes. Of course, when talking about war crimes nowadays, the first author of war crimes that comes to mind is Russian army, led by Vladimir Putin. So we will start with Galina Petrenko, director of Detector Media NGO from Ukraine. Galina, thank you very much for your participation, and I would like to give the floor to you to listen to your experience on that.
Thank you, and good morning. Talking about investigations of war crime in context of Ukraine, I will be speaking about temporarily occupied territories because they are under full control of Russian regime, and these are territories which Ukrainian journalists absolutely cannot attend for doing their job. We in Detector Media for several years we work with investigations of what's going on in occupied territories of Ukraine, and we produced several research in different formats. Sometimes our job was done for public purpose. For example, we investigated and built, discovered a network of almost 400 so-called journalists, but I would say media workers, who now work in occupied territories for Russian occupation administrations in their propagandist media outlets. Also, we big part of our work of such investigations we were doing on request of Ukrainian government from different authority bodies, and not all of this was fully published. What I would like to highlight as most important issues and processes in occupied territories. One is that Russia is conducted forced mobilization into the Russian army of Ukrainian citizens, of those Ukrainians who stay in occupied territories, and this is really mass practice. Their methods include passportizations, youth initiatives, as well as more subtle information campaigns that avoid direct mention of mobilization. For example, Russians promise that those who joined the army will get land plots in other regions of Russia. Also, we observe disproportionate persecution of Crimean Tatars in the process of this mobilization. 90% of all mobilization summonses since the beginning of the main mobilization wave in September 2022 were received by Crimean Tatars. Imagine, 90%. Also, we observe, we call it hunt for deserters. In many cities of Donetsk region, posters with the names of mobilized soldiers who fled from positions were placed. You know, like these are those who are criminals because they left the Russian army. Such posters with their names, with their pictures. Another important track is Russian work with youth and children. Russia is targeting youth, students, and even children from the occupied territories, trying to lay the groundwork for their future mobilization into the army. Imagine they work with those who are currently teenagers, but Russia has really long-term plans to continue war. Such initiatives include the event which is called the Conscript Day. It aims at conscripts and students in grades 10 and 11. Also, it includes the Russian state program Youth Army, aimed at militarizing youth by portraying Ukraine as an enemy of Russia, as well as military training courses in educational institutions and campaigns promoting military service as an honorable and patriotic cause. Our colleagues, researchers from the Yale University, discovered recently that there are 210 institutions in Russia where kidnapped Ukrainian children are being trained for military service and forced to assemble combat drones. So this is really a mass process. Of course, Russia is doing everything to make difficult to discover such events for the public. And there are lots of arrests and even torture of journalists and activists in temporarily occupied territories. Recently, I guess maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe has adopted a resolution calling on Russia to immediately release 26 Ukrainian journalists who are being held captive. 26. We also know those names who will never be released because they were tortured and they were died. Being prisoners because they are journalists. For example, Victoria Roshina, who was really who was tortured horribly. Also, in this resolution, for the first time, what's interesting, the Parliamentary Assembly used the term citizen journalist. It emphasizes the process that individuals risk their safety every day to report on the reality of the occupation. Citizen journalists are mostly Crimean Tatar, according to this document, and they are mostly Crimean Tatar activists and relatives of political prisoners, many of whom are forced to work anonymously and often become victims of persecution. It also stresses this mentioning in the resolution of citizen journalists, how journalists and investigators are being working on doing their reporting from occupied territories. We use all the methods that we can use. For example, we are doing what we call social media monitoring, social media listening. So we monitor using different tools. which allow to get access to big data sets on social networks in Russia, including Kontakte and what they are using, to understand what is being discussed in their information space. Currently, we also discover what the introduction of Max Messenger means for information space in Russia and for their aim to restrict the internet freedom in Russia in general, but also we have some, we suggest that in temporarily occupied territories, Russia will use it for all the experiments that it aims. Russia says that the ultimate goal of introduction of Max Messenger is to build something like a Chinese analog of WeChat. That means that it aims to build some combination of high technologies and the social engineering to full control of population on TOTs. And definitely it's ready to be as much cruel as it can. Also, what's interesting, we have an experience to conduct of online surveys in occupied territories. Like classical sociologists, they do not, how to say, they do not believe that it's possible, because we understand that in restrictive societies, people are not ready to discover their thoughts. But we did this experiment, we have this practice. We asked very simple questions. For example, we did not ask what you're thinking about the war or what you're thinking about the Kremlin. We just asked such simple questions. For example, if your children this summer visited some camps. This question is simple and easy and not dangerous. But for us, it allows to calculate the amount, the percentage of families who probably participate, whose children probably participate in these brainwashing camps that Russia introduces in occupied territories. Also, our government has interesting results. We conduct on an annual basis test all national test on media literacy. It's open, you can access on the website, answer some questions and so on. And the government says that last year they got quite intense participation from temporarily occupied territories. So imagine that people continue following the Ukrainian agenda even in such issues as development of media literacy, and they want to participate, they want to be heard. Also, we work with internally displaced people, with those who recently left occupied territories, and we conduct with them, which is called in-depth interviews, focus groups, also to research the recent developments and discoveries. What I would like also to say, despite the highest importance of these questions and all the issues, we also have to constantly work to keep the interest in non-occupied Ukrainian territories to these topics, to what's going on in TOTs. I mean, we do some campaigning for Ukrainian journalists for them to cover these topics, for Ukrainian media outlets, for them to be interested, also to keep an eye on these topics. Maybe not to investigate by themselves, but at least to quote other investigations, which is really important, I believe, to keep all the bridges between free and occupied territories. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Galina. You know, when talking about full-scale invasion and war crimes committed against Ukraine, there is an actor that sometimes is left behind public attendance, I would say, and I'm speaking about Belarus, which has played some role in those actions. So I would like to give the floor to Stanislav Ivashkevich, head of Belarusian Investigative Center, who is doing very important investigations about Belarusian part of those actions. The floor is yours. And thank you very much for your participation.
Yeah. So we at Belarusian Investigative Center, mainly when we're talking about war-related investigations, we mainly investigate sanctions evasion and feeding the Russian military machine. But we do have several investigations about war crimes, and they're mainly related to the beginning of the war by the documents that get uncovered now. So, for example, recently we have been able to get hold of a hospital list from Homel Hospital. Homel is a city in the south of Belarus where Russian soldiers retreated during the first months of the war, when the Russians were advancing from Belarus onto Kiev. And so there were over 800 people cured there, and we have been able from the basically it was written in these lists where they were wounded and on what date, and through that we were able to potentially tie some of them to the war crimes committed during the first few months of the full-scale invasion. Namely, one that the Ukrainian police has started an investigation again was a soldier officer named Alexander Kvitko. He was seen, so basically what we did was we checked these lists against, we cross-checked these lists against things that Ukrainian journalists and SBU have found. We found their photos, and our partners from Ukrainian Service of Radio for Europe, Scheme, they went and showed these photos to the inhabitants of Bucha and Hostomel, and one of them, this officer, he was recognized as the one who was the last one to visit a home of a retired lady who was ill and immobilized, Alla Minaeva, and she was found dead after the occupation, and our Ukrainian partners, by showing his photo, found the neighbors who said that she saw this man coming out of her house. And when she asked, because she was bringing food to this retired lady, and when she asked like if she can come, he said, "You don't need to go. We did the humane thing with her," is what he said. And the Ukrainian police later said that she was murdered. Also we were able to identify a few Russian soldiers who were wounded and then brought to the hospital in Belarus. From Hostomel, the policemen from Kemerovo and Novokuznetsk, who happened to be among the first parts of Russian army that were advancing on Kiev, because they were expecting that it's going to be an easier walk, and they expected that they're going to need the riot police as well as military at the very beginning to control the peaceful people. So they were hit with artillery, and they retreated to Hostomel, to this famous for Ukrainians crossroad where they were shooting civilians, and then they retreated when it became clear that it's going to be, that the engagement is not going to end soon. So they retreated back, and on the way they also had a stop in a Ukrainian village, Vozdvizhenskaya, where they've also killed at least 18 civilians. And And finally, we were able to identify several soldiers from Buryatia who were present at the place when the Ukrainians from Kiev were trying to flee to the west, and the Russian army was trying to encircle Kiev from the west. So they've cut the so-called Zhytomyrskaya highway. This is a highway going west from Kiev to Zhytomyr, and there they were shooting at the civilians going to Kiev, and they were able to identify several soldiers from Buryatia who were wounded there. So this was one investigation we had. Another investigation we had was about a filtration camp in Belarus. So the Russians set up this filtration camp in the city of Narolia, which is a city 70 kilometers from the Ukrainian border in the south of Belarus. So the Russians made camp in the southern Belarus, and among them was this filtration camp. So we heard from Ukrainian human rights organizations that some of the people that come back from Russian imprisonment, they say that they were present in this city Narolia. So we were able to, and they said that they were also that they were filmed during their imprisonment. So we were able to identify. We found the videos of these people when they were filmed in this filtration camp where they were present. We then checked the map of Narolia, where the historical map of Narolia, where a lot of Russian military technology was, and we were able to identify the actual building, and we were able to call the director. It was a state-owned enterprise, and this is where several hundred Ukrainian, not only soldiers, went through, but also civilians. And for example, there was at least one underage person who was 17 years old. He was detained along with his brother, who was older, because his brother did service in the Ukrainian army before. And one of the things that they said was that the 17-year-old was underage, but he was probably arrested because he looked like a young man. We did not hear of a lot of children there, but so they were taken there, and everybody was tortured there. So they said that people were tortured and beaten. We spoke to several survivors, and the military actually said that they felt that the civilians had it worse because with the military, obviously they had to give their rank and whatever else the Russians were asking them, whereas the civilians, if they would deny that they're partisans or because that's what the Russians accused them of, then or like planning a diversion, then they would try and beat them into confession. So, and one of the soldiers said that a Russian officer came to them when he came to them to questioning. He said, I wish it was as easy with the civilians as with you, because, well, basically they don't confess for being guilty from their point of view for what they have been taken for. We've also done some investigation of children's indoctrination. So the re-indoctrination of the Ukrainian children kidnapped from Ukraine. So there were several hundred of them that were in there was like a sanatorium program for them organized in Belarus, but at the same time there were also visits into the military, to the military, and shooting with and propaganda. So also there are two controversial pop stars in Belarus, the Gruzdev sisters, who are both pro-Lukashenko and pro-Russian. And so when they were performing from them, and it was actually left on video with them ending their song, saying, and kids, well, what we want to wish is that Biden dies, Zelensky as well, and Putin takes over Ukraine. So this kind of propaganda they were exposed to. Also, well, yeah, as was said before, UNARMIA is the Russian tool for indoctrinating children, and according to the officially published figures, it's 1.8 million who have been through it, and 12,000 who are claimed to be already fighting in the war. So there used to be kids in the UNARMIA, and now 12,000 of them are in the Russian army in fighting in Ukraine. And just recently, a couple of weeks ago, we did another investigation on indoctrination of Belarusian children. So Lukashenko, after the 2020 protests, is apparently seeing anything national as a threat. The security services are now very pro-Russian. The whole propaganda is much more pro-Russian than it used to be, and pro-war also. So ideologically, Belarus is completely aligned with Russia on this war. So this is as far as the war crimes, yeah, as I said, we mainly investigate sanctions, and what we're seeing in the past months is both a positive and a negative. How much time do you have?
I guess you still have a couple of minutes.
A couple of minutes. Okay. Yeah, so what we seen, the main takeaways. So it was a big learning process for the Western states about sanctions. So first they thought that it's enough just to introduce sanctions so that they work. Then it came, the realization came that in order to keep the sanctions going, you have to constantly keep sanctioning the sanctions evaders and take measures against sanctions evaders. This is why the sanctions, the life cycle of the sanctions that we're seeing from our investigation is first a shock when they're very effective, because not only they disrupt the legal channels, but also the sanctions evaders are timid at the beginning, waiting for the first ones to make the way. Then there is a very sharp fall in sanctions in sanctions control when the evaders start to scale, and then when the Western countries begin to learn how to control the sanctions. So it also took a while now, because the evaders had many options available to them, and very slowly. So after a sharp spike and a sharp drop, there is a very slow remission. But this remission is going, and in the recent year, in the recent month, we've in the recent, I would say, 2 years, we've seen progress. Sometimes it's for some items it's going faster than for the other. Of course, there is a setback. So the U.S. was the most effective in sanctions evasion control, but since 2025 they practically quit completely sanction evasion control. And if you quit sanction evasion control, you basically drop the cost of sanction evasion very low down. And there is still some what you call it, basically when the engine stops but you keep moving a little bit. So for example, inertia, yeah, thanks. So we've seen, we did an investigation recently about 180 million worth of equipment supplied to the Russian military industrial sector, and they used a Taiwanese intermediary, and we were able, there was a conference actually in Taiwan, so we were able to go to this Taiwanese intermediary posing as sanctions evader, and he explained that it is no longer possible to procure brand new equipment from the US, but the way that they found was that they find Chinese companies who are ready to give their used machines and order brand new American ones instead. So with the past experience, it took up to 3 months usually for US authorities to react. So obviously now it's almost a year, there was no reaction so far. But the EU is improving. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Basically, the next conflict, next big conflict that comes to mind in when you're talking about conflicts in OSCE region is, of course, recent wars in Nagorno-Karabakh, 2020, 2023, and a small war between Armenia and Azerbaijan, 2022. So yeah, the scale is of course uncomparable to one. I guess I'm sitting in front of projector. I should move. Okay. But still, we have observed war crimes there, and we have here Annie Grigoryan. She is head of fact-checking team of CivilNet, which is an independent media in Armenia, and she will talk about investigations that they do. Annie, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Annie Grigoryan. I'm an investigative journalist and fact checker. Today I will share how my team and I have used open source intelligence or OSINT to investigate and verify facts in closed or restricted areas where direct access is impossible. Shortly about myself, I have been in journalism for more than almost 14 years. I have started at CivilNet, then from 2019 to 2021, I was editor-in-chief of Fact Investigative Platform. Then in 2021, I went back to CivilNet and established a fact-checking unit, and now I'm leading that unit. So over the past 5 years, much of my work has focused on fact-checking, war-related disinformation, and documenting evidence in conflict and post-conflict areas. When the war broke out in Nagorno-Karabakh, I went to the conflict zone to be on the ground and verify what was happening there. Although Azerbaijan claimed that it wasn't targeting civilian areas, our documentation proved otherwise. Civilian infrastructures, homes, schools were also attacked. Here you can see the photos that I took during the war. First one is a shop in Stepanakert, second one is a house in Hadrut, and third one is a church, Holy Kazanchetsot in Shushi. This third photo, I took 2 or 3 minutes after when the bombing happened. We were in Shushi, and what was interesting that Azerbaijan, there were rumors like that Armenian troops are hiding in church. So we were there, and as I said, 2 or 3 minutes later, and there wasn't any troops. There was just one family that was in basement. And yeah, we showed that although that Azerbaijan was claiming that they are just bombing military bases, it wasn't true, and yeah, they were targeting also civilian infrastructure. But the situation changed after the 2020 war, when Azerbaijan first captured parts of Nagorno-Karabakh and then took full control in September 2023, and shortly after taking control of the territories in Azerbaijan, shortly after taking the control, Azerbaijan began to systematic destruction of Armenian heritage, and since then, independent journalists have been barred from entering the region. This was shortly, we did the investigation like 1 year after, it was in 2021. We found out that, for example, this is a Kanach church in Shushi. We documented that they destroyed this church in Shushi, and I don't know, can I open? No, I think I can't open the...
Sorry. No, you
Just-
can't open the laser pointer.
Okay, then...
But you can do it with your computer.
No, it's
No,
there.
it's there. Oh.
Yeah, okay.
You can do that.
Okay, it was important, but okay.
I will do it now.
What do you want to do?
open,
The previous
or even this one.
or even just link in. Okay.
No. So our goal was to use OSINT, open source intelligence, and document the destruction of Armenian towns, villages, and cultural heritage, churches, monasteries, museums, and in these investigations that we are now trying to open, we documented that with satellite imagery.
Would you scroll it, please?
Okay. Okay. This is Anach Jam, so you can see the. Okay, maybe we can go to the next article, next slide, and open. Sorry for these technical issues.
Next slide, yeah. How do we change the slide?
Next one?
Yes.
Yeah,
Could you
this
please
one.
just open this article?
That link
Do
the
it.
above.
Okay, on this photo there are several churches, monasteries from in Karabakh. The second one is Gazanchetot's church, and you see that they removed the dome of the church, and they said like they are claiming they are doing reconstruction, but with photos from the spot, mostly from Azerbaijani troops, and from the satellite images we see that they are trying to change its nature and please go down, or altered. This is a church in Hadrut, and with videos from we use satellite images, but also videos and photos from Azerbaijani troops, as they like to boasting themselves, like how they are how they captured and how they and they post many videos. And if we go down a little bit,
Can we scroll?
this is Gazanchettot, and please go down. And this is very interesting that our colleagues from BBC found out that Azerbaijani fully demolished church in Jabrail. It was built in 2017, but 1 year after that Azerbaijan took control of this area, they just demolished the whole church in Jabrail. Please go down. And next thing that they are also demolishing not only churches but also all other cultural heritage. I mean bridges and different monuments and even graveyards. They are just they are just trying to demolish whole Armenian heritage. Okay, can we go back to the next slide? I will try to. And here you can see two villages in Hadrut region, and during 2 years they just destroyed all the houses on these villages, and it's just two example. But if we open the link, which maybe we will skip, you will see that, for example, in this on this region they are just demolishing all Armenian settlements, houses, and like everything. So churches, schools, and they said like they are doing reconstruction, but they just trying to get rid of Armenian heritage in Nagorno-Karabakh. And what's interesting that Armenians lived in this, for example, in Hadrut region for centuries, and we have like old churches, old monasteries here, and now like they are building mosque in Hadrut, and even during the Soviet Union, when Hadrut was a part of Azerbaijan, there wasn't any mosque, and now they are building big mosque in Hadrut, and parallel they are destroying and demolish our Armenian heritage there. Please go to the next slide. And here is Sushi region, Sushi town. As I said, like they demolished not only Anajam and changed the nature of Gaziantep church, but also there were many. It was like a cultural city of Nagorno-Karabakh. There were many museums, and now we see that they also do construction work here and change the purpose of the city, and trying to get rid of Armenian heritage here as well. On the left side there was a statue park, but it was, as you can see, it was wholly demolished. Okay, next one. And here, just recently we found out that Azerbaijan fully destroyed an Armenian church in Lachin. You can see this Holy Hambartsum church was fully demolished, and they are going to construct a mosque on the same spot. So yeah, as you can see, they are trying to destroy everything that somehow connected with Armenians. And yeah, next one. And here is the Stepanakert, which was main city of Nagorno-Karabakh. They also destroyed the whole city center. It was a parliament building of Stepanakert. Now it's fully destroyed. We don't know what they are going to construct here, but like city center is fully destroyed now. But then, besides the Nagorno-Karabakh, after 2020 war, for us, it was very important to understand what's going on in our borders as well. Please, can you go to the... Okay. So since 2021, Azerbaijani forces have entered Armenia's sovereign territory from several directions. In Nerkinhand, mostly three regions, Sunik, Vayokzor, and Gegarkunik. This is in this case, I will ask you to open one of the. Please go to the next slide. What was interesting that Armenian authorities first were denying that Azerbaijani troops troops entered to our sovereign territory, and like they were saying it's fake news, but via satellite imagery we could document that there were new roads from Azerbaijani side that were crossing to their crossing border, and they advanced for even in some places for more than 7 kilometers. Can I ask you to open the first one even? Other Azerbaijani troops built roads and military positions. During these years, this road quality is getting better and better. We have a feeling that they are going to stay in our territory for, I don't know, they are not going to leave, although they advanced like 5-6 kilometers. Here you can see that like this yellow line is a border, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and you can see the roads, they are near the Nerkinhand village. And first people saw that there are like Azerbaijani troops, and then our Ministry of Defense was denying, but with satellite images we could show that for example Nerkinhand is surrounded by Azerbaijani troops from 3 or 4 sides, if I'm not mistaken. Please go down. Here you can see the go down, please. Yeah, if we compare, so it's very obvious. This is just one direction, but as I said, like since 2021, there were 3 or 4 invasions from Azerbaijan, and they invaded into our sovereign Armenian territories from several sides. Can you go to the second link as well? And further, okay. And this is Sev Lake in Sunik region. Go down, please. And also here is also very visible the roads from, as I said, yellow line is the border, and go down, please. And you can see
I guess we should make it clear that it's those are military roads for
yes,
military
it's,
positions.
yeah, and they constructed here military points, and as I said, like it's the quality and everything, and during the years they are putting more money and more money to make this infrastructure better, and yeah, we have a feeling that they are going to stay here forever. Please go down. So you can see they advanced for more than 3.5 kilometers, which is very disturbing for us. And they are controlling roads, they are controlling settlements, Armenian settlements, and yeah, so with these OSINT tools, we have this opportunity to fact check and understand what's going on in our borders as well, because as I said, these parts are restricted to enter as they are military areas, and via only these OSINT tools we can fact check and understand what Azerbaijan is doing in our sovereign territories. Okay?
Can I come back?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Annie. We are basically running out of time, but before opening floor for questions, I I would ask. Yes, I would abuse my position to ask the first question. Then I will go. I will open the floor for questions because basically we can have still half an hour. So, sorry. Yeah. Galina, you mentioned a case where Ukrainian journalists were tortured, were heavily tortured and killed as captive. I can remember cases when Azerbaijani military was targeting a group of Armenian journalists in a non-militarized area. Not Armenian, sorry, international journalists. That was a group of international, mainly French journalists in a non-militarized area. Can we assume that for dictatorial regimes, journalists, or independent journalists, are more dangerous than enemy combatants? Can we assume that?
I would say in Ukrainian case, because we have this full-scale war, they are not more dangerous, but they are same danger, definitely.
Annie?
In Azerbaijani case, it's very difficult to answer, but yeah, we know what's going on in Azerbaijan, that more like several dozen journalists are imprisoned, and we know that if any journalist who works in Azerbaijan and talks against Aliyev, what's happening with them. So this is internal, but external, yes, we saw during the 2020 war how Azerbaijan targeted international journalists in Martuni, if I'm not Martuni city, and there weren't near any military base. They were just working in the city and documenting what's going on, and they were targeted. So in this case, of course, yeah, they are, for Aliyev regime, I would say that they are more dangerous.
And I think that Belarus is not in an active combat, but what's your thought on that?
Well, I can remember from the 2020 protests, so the police was trying to take out journalists first, so I guess it is similar in this way that nowadays there's so many ways to document abuses, both in war and in repression, that journalists do become, if not more important, but the prime targets. And as opposed to wearing press would protect you, now it's more likely to be the opposite in many situations.
Yes, so wearing a press badge is now making you a primary target.